But I know Paul says something completely different to the other apostles that was around Jesus at the time.
Nope, he doesn't.
What's that?
So in relation to what's the word I'm looking for? Like foods you can eat. In relation to a lot of the things that was before, he wasn't saying things that was in conjunction with the rest.
No, this is just another da'i lie. And I'm not just saying you're lying. I'm just saying that Muslims lie to one another when they say this. Bring any Muslim you like to discuss this with me, and we'll go through it systematically. Paul's beliefs agree with what the other apostles teach. What's your question, bro? Peace be with you, brother.
I know you answered this question in regards to the Muslims.
Yeah.
But do you hate Muhammad, peace be upon him?
No, I don't hate Muhammad. I don't know Muhammad. So how can I hate him? I'm saying one thing, you're ignoring what I'm saying, and then you're putting words in my mouth. So listen to my words and engage with what I'm saying, rather than just using it for your own soundbite. I do not hate Muhammad. I can't hate Muhammad because I don't know him. But I hate the ideology of Islam, and I hate Sharia law, and I hate it for three reasons actually. Firstly, I hate it because it is not true and it leads people into falsehood. Secondly, is because it leads people into degenerate behavior, such as abortion and polygamous marriage and persecuting and discriminating Christians. And three, because Sharia law is an apartheid system that would seek to make me as a Christian a second-class citizen in an Islamic state. And just as if I was trying to impose an apartheid system on you because of the colour of your skin, which is something black people have really experienced, or because of your religion as a Muslim, you would hate that system of law. I don't think there's anything wrong with me hating a system of law that wants to turn Christians into second-class citizens.
So if I'm promoting that, like what the things you just mentioned,
yep,
then you would hate me too, because I'm the one promoting that type of ideology and that rhetoric.
Is that your question? Ready to reply. So my reply is, as a Christian, we are taught and we practice making a distinction between the sinner and the sin. And we're taught very clearly as Christians, and we do this. Everyone else in the world doesn't do this. Not everybody in the world does this, but we do. We make a distinction between sinner and sin. And what we're taught, and my brothers and sisters are confirming it for you, that they've all heard this as well, is that we love the sinner and we hate the sin. So as a Muslim, as a human being, I cannot hate you. Even if you promote that I should be made a second-class citizen, I don't hate you. I actually love you because I want you to come to the truth, to a better truth that will mean that you don't teach that. But what you teach, I will oppose. What you teach, I will oppose. I'll oppose it politically, I'll oppose it economically, I'll oppose it socially, I'll oppose it culturally, I'll oppose it spiritually. So that's a straight answer to your question.
Fantastic. That to me, I think it doesn't really answer the question, but it does, but
Thank you.
The understanding is different. If I'm saying something like you should do things that are against your religion or your way of life or your culture, I'm openly promoting that and saying this is gospel. And this is what I'm coming out with. Like, for argument's sake, some people, they hate Donald Trump.
Yep.
They hate Donald Trump due to what he's coming out with.
Yeah.
And his beliefs and etc. and how he's going about things.
Yep.
And they say because of what he's coming out of, what he's promoting, they hate him.
Yes.
They hate what he's coming out of and they hate him. It's part of him.
Yeah.
His rhetoric, his way of thinking is part of him.
Yes.
If Muhammad, peace be upon him, is doing things that are against your religion and he's pushing things that are against what you are about as a Christian, and saying that you should worship someone that you shouldn't worship according to you, then surely you would hate that and hate him for doing that.
So to reply to your point, as a Christian, this is exactly why I am convinced that Christianity is a better way of life than Islam. Because Christianity permits me a more flexible mindset. Because I make and I would correct all of those people that hate Donald Trump. They might, I would say, if you want to hate his ideas, fine, hate his ideas. Hate his policies, oppose them, but don't hate the man. Don't hate the man for the game, right? You play the game for what it is. And what I think is that we need to make a distinction between a person's behaviors and the person themselves. So for instance, using a different example, I hate the fact that some people are addicted to alcohol. Right? But I don't hate someone because they're addicted to alcohol, right? I hate the fact that we live in a society that promotes premarital and extramarital sex, and there are people that celebrate that. I don't hate them because they celebrate that. I hate their celebration. But what I seek to do is to call them to a better truth. And the thing is, if you want to call someone to a better truth, it would help you a lot if you actually respected the person. And the problem with hate is that it undercuts respect. And that's the reason why Christians around the Islamic world under Sharia law have always experienced persecution and discrimination, is because Muslims are not taught to make that distinction, and so they hate not just the Christian religion, but also the Christians themselves. And that's why there are anti-Christian pogroms, churches being blown up, Christian girls getting kidnapped. But I would oppose that if it was ever done to a Muslim.
So let me ask you a question, Bob. You mentioned a good point when you said you hate the fact that people are drinking alcohol and they're becoming alcoholics. Now, as a Christian yourself, would you say you hate what they're doing? Would you say that it's God-fearing for you to hate the brewery? Would it be wrong for you to say that you hate the brewery that is providing the alcohol for these people to commit sin and do their drunken behaviour with? Is that wrong for you to say that?
Right, so this is a question where Christians and Muslims disagree, because I'm sure you know, within the Christian worldview, it's okay to drink alcohol. It's the abuse of alcohol that's condemned within the Christian faith. So in the same way that lots of Muslims in this part would attempt to justify the continuation of the slave trade that's continuing in the Islamic world in Africa, where you can still buy black slaves. The Muslims would try to condemn that. They would just say, Muslims would try to justify that. They would condemn the abuses of it. And in the same way, I would condemn. Can we continue our conversation? Can we continue our conversation? So I condemn the abuse of alcohol. That's what I condemn.
So the breweries too?
No.
There's some, for argument to cut your story, Bob, there's some alcoholic drinks that some Christians don't go near, like the stronger drinks. So maybe wine they might accept, but the stronger alcoholic drinks, they're like, no, this is...
So let me answer that question. Like, if it was up to me, I'd have tighter laws around alcohol, no doubt about it. Supermarkets wouldn't be able to sell it. You'd only be able to buy it in pubs, and you'd only be able to buy it with food. And you wouldn't be able to buy it past a certain time, and you would have to be there. You couldn't, like, if you were there solo, I'd have restrictions on how many drinks you could buy. Like, seriously, the drinking culture in this country is wrong. It's nihilistic. You know, English people literally have this idea that they have to live their week to the Friday and then destroy themselves on a Friday night with alcohol. They literally say that. I want to get annihilated this Friday. I'm going to destroy myself. They say that, and I'm against that, right? But for instance, just as I am opposed to that liberal attitude, I'm also opposed to Islam, because Islam permits slavery. Islam permits the buying and selling of human beings as slaves. And I oppose that, and that's a much greater evil than the abuse of alcohol. A much greater evil.
So wasn't some of the Christians doing slavery?
In the past, yeah.
And they was backing it with biblical scriptures, talking about the people of Hammer first and then second rate, etc.
Yeah. So let me address that question. Do you see? They're proving exactly what I said. So to that brother that said that I was making it up, there you go. That's the kind of the behaviour that I'm attitude. Are you focusing on me? Just ignore him. He's got no manners. He's got no manners. So in answer to the question, I heard you the first time. I'm replying to it. No.
Your brother was saying amen, hallelujah. I wasn't saying nothing to him.
Yeah. But he wasn't doing what he's doing.
Fair enough.
Right. So but he wasn't doing what he's doing. Right? My point to you is, did Europeans do slavery? Yes. Did we abolish slavery? Yes. Have Muslims done slavery for 1400 years? Yes. Have they abolished it of their own free will? No. The only time the Islamic world abolished slavery was when the Western world pointed a gun at their heads and said, stop it or we'll bomb your cities. That's when the Muslim world stopped slavery. Saudi Arabia has practiced slavery for 1400 years. The only time they stopped it was in 1962 or 1964, and they only did it because the UN, under Western pressure, said you either sign this treaty or we're going to collapse your economy.
This I don't know much of, Bob, so I can't really talk
Google
to
it
you.
right now. Just Google, when did Saudi Arabia abolish slavery?
What I'm saying, Bob, is you said that they
Just because someone's black doesn't mean they know history any more than just because someone's white. That doesn't mean anything. Your colour of your skin doesn't make you an expert in history.
What I'm saying, Bob, you said that they had stopped slavery because the West said if they don't stop it, they're going to we're going to bomb you to oblivion. But then on the flip side, you're saying that still goes on today in Saudi Arabia, and the West haven't gone there and attacked it and bombed it beyond oblivion. So
Currently, the only places where slavery is legal in this world, the only place that I as a white man can go and buy a black child as a slave is in the African Islamic world, in Chad, in North Sudan. These are places where I can go and buy a black child as a slave today for less than a McDonald's.
So why hasn't no one bombed them? You said
Right.
the West have
Because
stopped it to
because
threaten them with
the liberal progressives at this moment in time, they don't care about justice.
So it was an empty threat then, basically.
No. What I'm talking about is when the Ottoman Empire was forced to abolish slavery. They did it in the 1800s, and they did it because the British Navy said, the British said to them, the British and the French, they said, if you don't stop slavery, we'll bomb your cities.
But it's still carrying on today.
Yes, in the Islamic world, and what I'm trying to say to
no
you,
one's bombed them.
and what I'm trying to say to you is that that's a problem with Islam.
No, it's a problem with the West because the West
So
is so
so it's the West's fault that the Islamic world has continued the slave trade.
No, what I'm trying to say
I
to
agree.
you-
We should be harder on the Islamic world.
What I'm saying is that you're saying that they threaten them that if it's going to carry on, that they're going to
In the
bomb
past.
them.
In
Yeah?
the past.
What you're saying is it's still carrying on today.
It is, yeah.
So I'm saying, why have they not bombed them?
I agree. The Western world should be far harder on any Islamic country that still has slavery as a legal practice. And we should not be frightened to topple governments, and we shouldn't be frightened to collapse economies, and we shouldn't be frightened to kill leaders. Any leadership or government in the Islamic world, like ISIS, that tried to re-establish the slave trade, that continues in the slave trade, I personally believe in Western intervention, and we should force them that if they can't be the better human being that they should be because of Islam, that we should force them to be better human beings by ending the slave trade at the point of a gun.
So when they was defending slavery in regards to the Hamites or the people of Ham and so forth,
Yep.
was that wrong of those Christian preachers doing that?
Absolutely it was. And the thing is, what you probably don't know, but this is an interesting fact of history that you should go away and look at, is that in American museums they have what are called slave Bibles. And what happened is that when they gave the slave Bibles to the slaves, they actually took out huge numbers of verses because they realized that if they gave them the Bible without editing it, the people would read the Bible and realize that slavery is wrong. And you can see those Bibles in American museums today. They're called slave Bibles, and they're edited Bibles where they take out whole passages, entire chapters and verses of the Bible, because they knew if they just gave them the Bible without editing those verses out, the slaves would get the idea that slavery is wrong. And that says to you everything you need to know about the Bible. So yes, those slave owners and slave traders that said, that slavery is okay because of the curse of Ham, they were wrong, utterly wrong. And interestingly, that interpretation is a very late interpretation, and it comes actually out of the Enlightenment, because the categories of race that we all think in today isn't actually a Christian idea, it's an Enlightenment idea. Christians had no concept prior to the Enlightenment of these categories of race. Nobody did.
But it talks about different cultures in the Bible.
Different cultures,
So
different
the
nations,
Hamites,
yes.
It talks about different nations. and-
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say is, it talks about, not that I'm completely clued up on this, but it talks about some people, that some nations they're cursed, and they're not on the same level.
Yeah.
So the Gentiles, that it talks about other nations, and sometimes it talks about them in a derogatory way. So if you're going to follow what Christianity is teaching, then you're going to look at these people like they are second rate. Like, I'll give you an example. Some people often talk about the story of the Canaanite woman,
Yeah.
where Jesus did not want to help her because she wasn't an Israelite.
Yep.
She was a Gentile.
Yep.
He even referred to her as a dog.
Yep.
So we all know, even if we're lovers of dogs, that dogs are beneath us. We're not on the same level.
Yep.
If it was a matter of you dying and a dog dying, and you ask me which one should die, I would say the dog, simply because you're over the dog. You and the dog are not on the same level.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, it does promote that some people are better than others, or some people are there's different levels, or in regards to nations. So it's always been. This is even back in the Old Testament.
So let me reply to that in full.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first reply to that is when you actually look at the passage, there's two terms for dog in Greek. Okay. The term that is used when Jesus says that it would be wrong to give the meat to the dogs. The term that is used in the Greek is what's called a diminutive. A diminutive, we have it in Spanish, and I'm bilingual. Spanish is my second language. A diminutive is not always an insult. A diminutive can actually be a compliment. In the north of England, they'll use terms like flower, petal, pet. They use the word pet in the north of England, and it's not an insult. It's a term of affinity. Now, I've used that term myself, and people outside of northern culture have thought that I'm being insulting, but I'm not being insulting. And that's actually what's happening when Jesus uses that term dog to the woman. He's using a diminutive that isn't an insult, it's a term of affection, in the same way that in the north of England they say, hey up love, hey up pet, hey up petal, right? It's not an insult, it's an informative term. Now, hold on one second, because if you're going to say that this is a problem, then you should, if you're consistent, have a problem with Muhammad who said that Satan looks like a rusky black man. Muhammad who said that you should obey your leader even if he is an Ethiopian with a head like a raisin. Now that is kind of insulting language that Muhammad used of black people, right? And so the reality is, bro, if you're going to condemn that, then you should condemn Muhammad. You should condemn Muhammad. But the question is, will you be consistent? Are you brave enough to be consistent?
I'm saying,
don't be distracted by these people. They just get sorry.
They're talking across. What I'm saying to you is he refused to help her based on the fact that she was a Gentile.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's saying, like I might say, pet to a girl, but we're still on the same level.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. If I called you a dog and refused to help you, that means I'm looking at you like you are beneath me.
Did he help her?
Yeah, them times Gentiles were dogs.
Right,
eventually, but
no,
she had to beg for help.
If you look,
and usually, sorry, but let me just finish.
Yeah.
If I ask any Christian here, anyone, even these ones here right now that are hearing our discussion, if I ask for Jesus to help me right now, if I come to Jesus, will he help me? Will he embrace me? They'll all say yes. In the case of that story, she begged for Jesus' help, and eventually Jesus dealt with her. So he didn't want to deal with her simply because she was a Gentile and she was an-Israelite. So there was a difference in regards to nations.
So shall I reply to that? So the actual.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you. The point I'm trying to make is that when you say that he was saying it in like a nice way, it's clearly in that reference it wasn't nice.
So let me reply to that.
Yeah.
It clearly was nice, and we know that it was nice because. No, I didn't interrupt you.
You didn't.
So let me speak without interruption. It clearly was a term of encouragement because rather than being discouraged, the woman continued to ask. And the reality is, if you speak to any Christian who's mature in their spirituality, they will tell you that no, Jesus doesn't always answer your prayers. He doesn't always give you what you want, because sometimes he either wants you to ask because it draws faith out of you, or it's not good for you, the thing that you ask for. And so Christians understand that Christ taught persistence in prayer. That's one of his key teachings. That's the parable of the widow and the unjust judge. One of the parables that Jesus is teaching is about persistence in prayer. And as I've already demonstrated, even in England we have examples of using diminutive terms in affectionate ways. And you're simply, and the Greek term is a diminutive. That's actually the Greek word that is used. It's more akin to puppy than it is to dog, the harsh sounding word that we translate it as and hear it as. Because in English, dog is a harsh term. We do use dog as an insult. So when we see it in the text of the English, we read it in that sound, because in our language to call someone a dog, it is an insult. But to call someone I'll give you a perfect example. Often male lovers of women will call them kitten, but it's not seen as an insult. Like, kitten, they'll talk to one another with these affectionate terms, using diminutives. So I've given you plenty of examples to demonstrate it's not necessarily an insult. Secondly, Christ did answer her prayer. That's the important thing. And if you actually look at that exchange and that dialogue, yes, she was persistent in her prayer and Christ was drawing out that persistence from her.
Why?
But I noticed that you haven't addressed my point, which is that Muhammad, listen to these words. He said that using an example of when you should obey your leaders and how you should obey your leaders, he was saying that you should obey your leader even if they are an Ethiopian with the head like a raisin. Now think about what that means. He's essentially saying that even if the worst kind of human is your leader, you should obey them. And what did he define as the worst kind of human? An Ethiopian with the head like a raisin. Now that's obviously a contextualized racist. It's like me saying you should obey your leader even if they are a convicted paedophile. Do you see how that sounds? Because that's what Muhammad was doing. His context, in the context into which he was speaking, the lowest category of human being in pagan Arab culture and amongst the Muslims was the black guy.
Prove it.
And he's saying obey your leader even if they are an Ethiopian with a head like a raisin. So you shouldn't just avoid that.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never did none of that, brother. If he did, prove it. Prove it. And I'll say, you know what, you're right.
Don't listen to these trolls.
Don't listen to the facts, the logic. Yeah?
Don't listen to these upset trolls. Don't listen to these upset trolls. You just press on with your conversation, bro.
That's what he's saying.
Their bad manners should not affect you. You should be able to continue with your
If
conversation.
anything, you're doing much worse than what I'm doing. Do you understand?
In regards to what you said about
You're doing much worse.
Yeah.
Hang on, bro, 2 seconds. In regards to the Ethiopian comment, I'm going to have to look into that. That's
Go for
something
it.
that I'm not aware of.
And then come back and talk to me.
That's no problem. Probably
Yeah.
next week or something. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're here every Sunday. I'm going to look into that. In relation to the Canaanite woman, you are fully aware of that scripture in the Bible.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that you're saying that she should show consistent faith. When she went to Jesus, she said, "Oh, Master, Master." I
Yeah.
can't remember it verbatim, bearing in mind, but she came to him and said,
Sorry, I got it, bro.
so she came to
I've got it. Oh, no, I've got it here, thank you.
she came to him and said, "Oh Master, oh Master."
Yeah.
So she was already had the faith.
Yeah.
But she's already coming to Jesus
Yeah.
according to the Bible with unlimited faith, calling him, "Oh Master, and begging him.
Yeah.
He didn't want to acknowledge her until the disciples said, I can't remember exactly verbatim, but the disciples ended up coming to her and saying,
Send her away.
to Jesus, and said, "Listen,
Yeah.
she's constantly
Yeah.
pestering us, Jesus.
Yeah.
Please just give her a little bit of time because this is becoming too much."
Yeah.
Then eventually he dealt with her. But the reason why he didn't want to deal with her is because she was a Gentile. And I think in that same passage, it says, when they asked Jesus, or when she asked Jesus,
Yeah.
he
I have
had
come
them
for no
replied,
one but the house of
"I have
Israel."
only become to the lost sheep
of the house of Israel. Yeah.
So there's a clear distinction between what she was,
Yep.
a Gentile,
Yep.
and what he was
Yep.
as an Israelite.
Yep.
There's a clear distinction there. But
Yeah.
she came to him with pure proof in the beginning.
Yep.
So, and just to confirm, that passage with the Ethiopian thing, I'm going to have to look into it.
Yeah,
so
you
I
should.
can't talk too much.
And
on it,
I'll tell you
and
what.
I need to get the context.
And I'll
about
tell you what
it.
exactly the traditional understanding of the Muslims is that is a passage in which Muhammad is demonstrating that how much faith and fidelity you should give to the Caliph, to the leader, and that's what they understand Muhammad as teaching. Because I have looked into this passage, but you've got to understand how the example makes sense. He's saying that even if they are the lowest of the low in your perception, you should still obey them. Which means that he was speaking into a racist culture in which attitudes towards black people were racist, but he's saying that even if the leader is an Ethiopian with the head of a raisin, which is quite insulting in and of itself, then you should still obey them. So that is essentially saying an old, wrinkly black man, because he's got wrinkles, and he's describing it as a raisin. Now, if I was to describe any old elderly gentleman who's black in colour like a raisin head in front of you, you would absolutely right to say that that is an insult. And it was no less of an insult in the time of Muhammad. When has anyone described someone as having a raisin head and being a compliment? My point to you is the passage that you're quoting. Jesus said, right, and it's a diminutive term, and I've given you examples from modern English, and I've demonstrated that in the Greek there are two terms that are used for dog One of them is a diminutive, and when it's used in a diminutive sense, just like diminutives in English or diminutives in Spanish, it's not necessarily an insult.
It is, Bob, because he refused to help her.
You don't know Greek, bro.
And he used that. If I'm saying you're a dog, I don't want to help you.
Yeah,
I'm not meaning it in a pleasant way.
You're hearing it in English, bro.
Even if I heard in ancient Aramaic, if there was dogs back then in Israel at the time of Jesus, peace be upon him.
The text is in Greek.
I'm trying to say they got it from the ancient Aramaic.
Yes,
so
but
they translated it.
Yes, exactly. So they translated it.
Exactly.
No, 1 second, because here's the right. Yeah, but the thing is, bro. Right. Yeah, I mean, okay. You finish your point and then I'll reply.
So I'm not even going to be long. What I'm saying is, even in the time of Jesus, there was dogs about. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there was no RSP shame back then where people dogs were very, very, even more so second rate back then than they are now. Because as you well know, that the animals of today, dogs, cats, they have rights. You can't just treat them anyhow or you'll get arrested. I can't just go and start strangling cats or skinning them in the street.
Yeah.
I would get arrested and probably sent to jail for that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, even in the time of Jesus, the dogs were probably even lesser they was even more so.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, Jesus refused to help her, and then he referred to her as a dog. So when you're saying that it's an diminutive, there was no way that could have been nice if he refused to help her and then called her that also. And then there was some talk about the crumbs falling off the table and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's clear that she was of a lower class.
Yeah.
Because of her
being Gentile.
And also I was going to say to you, sorry, but I'm just going to land quickly. Again, I don't know in its entirety, but I'm sure
Can you save your second point? Let me reply to your first point and then come back with you.
The first.
Yeah, can I just reply to that first though? Because I think we need to bring that to a conversation before you end that conversation before you bring up a new point. And the reality is the reality is that, you know, I've exemplified and demonstrated the terminology is diminutive in the Greek. It isn't an insult, and people did love their family dogs. Even back then, people loved their family animals, and it's not necessarily an insult. And the reality is, bro, that you can either chew that pill or not. You can either believe it or not believe it. But I've heard this argument before, and it's just not convincing because it doesn't have an understanding of the Greek, it doesn't have an understanding of culture, and it doesn't have an understanding of language. People today in English, lovers, men who love women, some of them call them kittens. It's a term within relationships even today.
Why is Satan
and you see the behavior of your Muslim compatriot.
Don't say Muslim compatriot because you just try
so
to disrespect my prophet.
is insulted because of facts about your prophet that you need to look at. Because if you're going to look into that and you're going to find that what I'm saying is true, then you need to ask yourself whether this is someone you should follow. And I would say to you that it isn't. The fact of the matter is, Christ did help the Gentile woman.
Christ did not
He
speak in
answered
Greek.
her prayer.
He did not speak in
and in
Greek.
the parable
He did not
of the
speak
unjust
English.
judge,
Do you understand, my
when
friend?
the widow persistently pestered the unjust
it's
judge in that
logic, man. It's
parable,
logic, man.
he was using
It's
it as an
logic, bro.
example of persistence. Because
He
what
isn't.
Christ
We don't
wants
have the
from
original
you,
book.
brother, what Christ wants from you,
did not speak
and what he
Greek, bro.
wants from me, is that faith
Listen,
is
in your
something
Bible,
that pushes
it says
us
Jesus
outwards,
is cursed
that it makes
and
us
Satan
grow
is the
in
ruler of the world.
virtue, and it makes
In the
us grow
Quran,
in
it's the
truth.
other way around.
And Christ,
Yeah?
in the example
Other way around.
of what we're what you're
why is it
talking
like that,
about,
man?
what we're talking about,
In our book,
is Christ putting into
Satan is
practice
cursed.
one of his own
In the
parables.
Bible,
The parable
Satan
was
is the
about
ruler of the world.
persistence in
What is this bullshit,
chasing
bro?
after God and asking God what you want, and then he's using the example of the woman to put into
He called her
practice
dog.
what he
Dog.
taught to make her
D-O-G.
persistent
Dog.
in pushing for what
Dog.
she wanted.
They lick their balls.
And also with the apostles
They
as
lick
well.
shit. They
So he's
keep a dog.
literally putting into practice
Gentiles.
what he preaches.
Yeah.
Something
They call her
Muhammad never
dog.
did. Muhammad said to you that you could only have 4 wives.
have nothing.
He had over 13
And
wives.
you can't even have one.
So he couldn't even practice what he
You
preaches.
know what I mean? You can't even get one.
He couldn't even practice
Come on,
what he
man.
preaches. So,
on, man.
you wanted to raise another point.
Because you can't live with a woman.
I was gonna
That's
say
why
that
you can't. You don't have a woman.
even in relation to-
Because I'll be real with you, my friend. Yeah.
Even-
Look, Mama, I'll be real with you. Yeah.
When are you going to correct him on his bad behaviour?
I don't correct your Christians, Bob. I don't correct.
Who amongst the Christians is behaving like this?
Behaving like
I'm
this?
just trying to say.
Who told you I'm a
Muslim?
Muslim?
I'm not going to
Because
say
I said
anything.
sallallahu alaihi
Whatever he wants.
But who amongst the Christians?
For me.
So
I'm a
to
believer.
the brother,
I'm a believer.
I just going to make a comment to the camera. So to the brother that was challenging
Brother, you
me
think
earlier,
the Holy Spirit
there you
is
go,
guiding you.
proving me right.
It's the JRT.
Proving me right.
No. See, you change the
Go on,
conversation, my brother, yeah?
What I'm saying
You
is
change the conversation,
when the
innit?
Christian-
Because when you do this...
You're being rude. I'm trying to listen
And
to
what can
him.
you do about it? Nothing. You
When-
can't do nothing. All you can do is walk away.
Aren't you
Come
that
on,
silly
man.
boy that tried
Don't
to
say
talk
silly
about...
boy, you're my height.
wait,
You can
wait.
go hackney, I can
Wait,
knock you out.
wait,
Hackney.
wait.
Don't say boy.
Weren't you that silly
Do not
boy
say
that tried
boy.
to challenge me over
saying
there
silly boy.
and talked about his on camera?
Look, this is
Weren't you that
Christian,
guy
bro.
over there?
Why are you mentioning bruv?
Because I think you were the guy that did it.
Bruv, there's kids around.
He sounds
and that,
like
bruv.
it. He sounds
Bruv,
like
you
it.
need to understand this,
Go
yeah?
on.
You're a
You were saying.
disgusting guy. You talk about yeah? You talk about... You talk nothing
Keep
like
your hands
Jesus.
to yourself.
Yeah, my bad.
Keep
yeah?
your hands to
You talk
yourself.
You talk
Go on.
nothing good, man. Go on what? You're trying to kiss him or something, bro.
I'm trying to listen to him and you're being rude.
No, you're not.
Go on.
You're not listening to him. You're not listening to him, bro.
I'm trying to. You keep interrupting.
See, you're trying to.
Go
You're
on,
not
bro.
acknowledging, bro. He's been talking for 20 minutes.
You've been interrupting for 20 minutes.
It's because you're not listening to him, bro.
Go on, bro.
Changing the topic, man.
What-
That's
what
why
I'm-
he's not interrupting me. Because he knows you're just waffling.
Yeah, well, he's not interrupting you because it seems
what?
that
That's
no
your
matter
opinion.
how bad you
Man,
behave,
you're just making it
no
up on
one
the
wants
spot.
to put you in
just
your
made
place
that
amongst your
sentence
Muslim
up.
brothers.
You've just made that up at the spot.
What I'm
That's
saying,
not what he thinks.
What I'm saying, Bob.
So you
Yeah,
lie
go
all
on.
the time,
The
man.
reality is speaker's corner,
You're a
innit?
born
Yeah, of course.
liar,
Everyone
man.
can
Big
chime
man
in.
thing.
Yes,
You're
of
right.
course,
Your
of course,
Christians
of course.
haven't said anything.
You're right.
Even when the
You're
guy in
right.
the red jacket was saying Amen, Hallelujah, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Look.
I didn't say
Are you
anything
listening
which
to
you're a
him now?
witness of.
Yeah, he wasn't interrupting.
He wasn't, but he was saying what he was
Oh,
saying
he
out
wasn't?
loud,
Yeah.
and I
See,
didn't
that's
say
what I
anything.
mean,
He
man.
can feel free to say what he wants.
Liars.
If somebody wants to chime in and say
You're
something,
absolutely right.
they can
Speaker's
say
corner,
it.
he has the
It's-
right
it's
to heckle.
speaker's
That's
corner.
what it is. Yeah,
But what I'm
absolutely.
saying
That's the
is,
deal.
Yeah, in the Bible, it specifically says that the Israelites were God's favored people.
Are
Yes,
you Israelites?
yes.
Are you Israelites?
So what I'm saying
you
is
speak
that
Hebrew. No, you don't.
what I'm saying is that
You don't follow
there is a
him.
clear distinction that not everybody is the same.
Right.
Because God said that of all the nations on the earth, the Israelites were his chosen or his most favored people.
Yep.
Israel is smaller than England.
Yep.
It's tiny.
And you guys were
Tiny
classed as
country.
dogs,
So what I'm
Gentiles.
saying is that there is a distinction between nations.
Yep.
We're not saying
Even
it.
according
the Bible is.
to the Bible.
Okay, can I reply to
And
that?
even the Quran says that as well.
Can I
The
reply
Quran
to
says
that?
that Israel was God's favored people
Yep.
above all nations.
Yep.
It clearly says this.
Yep.
And all the prophets, I think, starting with Moses.
Yep.
Because I think Abraham and Noah wasn't Israelites, so we're not too sure where their lineage stemmed from. But from, was it Abraham? It started from the tribe of Judah.
Yeah, the tribe of Judah, it was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
Brother,
So from
Abraham
that
wasn't a
down-
Jew.
No,
He wasn't
brother,
a Jew.
focus on me.
No, he wasn't.
Focus on me,
But
please.
his descendants,
Yeah.
they became. So what I'm saying is that there is a clear distinction.
Muhammad
Yeah.
is,
So if Jesus is saying that there's a clear distinction as well, he's not entirely wrong.
Isaac.
So can I reply to that?
Yeah, full.
So the reality is, the reality is, Christ at the end of his life, he sends out his apostles, and he doesn't just send them out to the lost children of Israel. He sends them out to all nations
He didn't say that.
to teach and baptize in the name of the
didn't say
Father,
all
the
nations.
Son, and the Holy
He
Spirit.
didn't say all nations.
Teaching them to follow his commands. Right? That's what Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28. You can go and check it out for yourself. These Muslims are just ignorant. Now, the thing is, when
And you're a
Paul,
dickhead, bro.
when
You know what I
Paul
mean?
writes his
You're a
epistle to the
racist,
Romans,
cuz.
he says
You know what I mean?
that we are to
anything,
be,
you're gonna be in a
that
worse
we, the
place than
Gentiles,
me.
that's me and you,
Yeah?
are
'Cause you're the one
grafted
saying, Lord,
onto
Lord,
the
Lord,
vine
Lord.
of
We'll see
Jesse,
what
which
Lord,
is
your
the
Lord's
vine
gonna
of
say to
Israel.
you.
So we're
We shall
grafted
see,
on.
bro.
Now, do you know what grafted
Fuck
means?
what happens in this world. We're going to see
Right?
what happens.
It's an
after, man.
agricultural term. What
You know
you
what I
do
mean?
is you cut away
Lord.
to the lowest part
It
of the
says in the
branch.
Bible what happens.
You cut
It
a
says-
notch in the branch,
Get away
and then
from
you
me,
take a
he's gonna say.
different plant
Get away
with
from me,
different
he's
fruit,
gonna say.
and you put that onto the root and
Casting
the
demons
stub
out of my name.
of the other
Get
plant,
away
and you
from me,
bind
you
it together.
evildoers.
And then what happens is the two join together, and the root and the stub
Be stuck, bro.
feed the branches of this other tree, and that's how he describes the relationship of the Gentile to Israel. So we are grafted onto Israel. So to the question, does Israel in the Old Testament have a special place? Yes, but obviously as a Muslim you can't criticize that, because according to the Quran, the Quran affirms that same teaching.
That's correct.
That in the new covenant, Christians believe that Gentiles like me and you together can be grafted into Israel, so that it's in the new covenant. Yes.
No, is that the second one, not the old one of Moses?
Yes, that's the new covenant. It's the new covenant. Yes. So in that new covenant is something where we become the confederacy of Israel, where you and I become joined together. But the point is, when I look at Islam, what I see is a religion that teaches that Arab culture is superior to our own. Let me give you examples. When someone becomes a Muslim, usually they take on an Arab name. They bow down to an Arab city. They have to play in Arabic. They read an Arabic book. Arabic customs become normal. There's plenty of Muslims who are not Arab that start dressing like Arabs, taking Arab names. They bow to an Arab city. They go on pilgrimage to an Arab city. They have to learn Arabic. What's up? God can't understand you in English?
Who says you have to
In
do
the
that?
Christian faith,
Well, who says you have to
your
do
culture
that?
and my
You're
culture,
lying to
whatever
yourself,
your
man.
culture is, whether you
You're
say it's
lying to
English
yourself.
or something else, your culture and my culture have equal dignity
Your culture
with
was made
Arab
up, bro.
culture, with Palestinian Jewish
Your
culture.
culture was made up, bro.
And what we are supposed to do is
Take
all
it,
of
bro.
us, Jews and Gentiles, filter our own culture to make it a better culture, a best kind of culture. But in Islam, what we see is Arabization. You go and look at North Africa. North Africa, all those people. No, sorry, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. Stop being rude. Don't interrupt. Stop being rude. Brother, focus on me, or I can't. So, if you're going to stop listening to me, I'll stop talking to you and I'll just go somewhere else.
Well, another once I said I wasn't listening to you.
Right. So please focus on me. Right. So my point to you is that you look at Egypt. Egypt had an African culture, had an African language called Coptic. Right. It's older than Arabic, but since even before the time of Christ, they had Coptic as their language, and then the Muslims came in the 7th century, and they imposed, and then Arabic became their language. Look at North Sudan. North Sudan is Nubian. They had their own culture, they had their own beliefs. I know a refugee woman, a Muslim woman, who had to flee North Sudan, and her crime was to campaign to stop an area of Nubian historical importance from being flooded by a dam that they were building in Sudan. And they were going to kill her for it. And she was a Muslim woman campaigning to defend Nubian culture. And they speak Arabic now, and they think of themselves as Arabs. Wherever Islam dominates, Arabization follows. The Assyrians of Iraq, Arabization. The Palestinians of the Middle East, Arabization. Jordan, Arabization. In terms of Pakistan, you've got, even now there's a debate going on in Pakistan right now, where Arabization is occurring in Pakistan, and some people are trying to fight him. There you go. And he said nothing wrong with it. So don't talk to me about one culture being superior when as a Muslim you end up being colonized in your mind to thinking that Arabic culture is superior to your own.
200 years ago.
Nowhere in the Quran does it say that Arab culture is superior.
It says Arabs are the same as others,
what the Arabs came with before, for example, in the Arabs, their tradition before was to bury their daughters. That was an Arab culture, to bury your daughters. Having a daughter wasn't good. Muhammad, peace upon him, came and he refuted that. So when we're doing certain things in Arabic, it's not the culture, it's the religion that we are following. Because God did not say follow Arab culture. There was many things that the Arabs were doing before that Muhammad, peace upon him, came with, and he said, so don't do that. Stop it. Stop what we do culturally.
Just how you said,
Yeah?
filter our culture, the Prophet Muhammad did that.
God, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that they did stop that. Even when you follow Jesus, I'm pretty sure you don't look at it like you're following an Israelite culture. You're just following the teachings of what was sent to him by God. It's like Moses with the Israelites as well. When they're following their own people, but when certain people's following the prophets of God, they're not following their culture because God hasn't set down culture to them. He set down divine revelation. That's something that we can both understand. So it's not a cultural thing. If I am doing certain things that maybe dressing the way he dressed or certain things, then that's just the way he done it. If you knew how Jesus dressed, for argument's sake, just hypothetically, if you know how Jesus dressed, how he did his hair, you might say, well, this is the man that I want to follow. And you might start following that. If Jesus came every day in sandals, you might say, well, sandals look good on him. Let me just try and follow everything down to the T with him. Because he's the one that's upon divine revelation. It's nothing wrong with that, but we don't follow their culture. I don't eat Arab food. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I don't eat Israelite or Israeli. Do you know what I mean? I just do certain things because what they came with, their religion in regards to God. Second of all, I was going to say, in the Bible, it talks about the second covenant. I can't remember again, I didn't really come in to preach, but I can't remember again exactly where it says it, but I know you'll be familiar. It says that I'm going to bring a new covenant to you, and it's not going to be the one of the people that I led Moses in the land of Egypt. It's going to be a new covenant. When he mentions that covenant, it said it's only going to be for the house of Israel. It doesn't say that more.
No.
Do you know where it is? Do you know, the reference I'm talking
Let me reply to all your points, and I will reply to that question as well. I will start with that question. The passage that you're referring to is going to be in one or two places. Yeah. If it's the Old Testament reference, it'll be in Jeremiah. If it's
which one, Jeremiah?
I think from memory, I'm guessing, but I've got a feeling Jeremiah 31, but I'm not sure. Could be wrong. There might not even be 31 chapters in Jeremiah. So if it's an Old Testament reference, it might be in Jeremiah. If it's a New Testament reference, Christ mentions the new covenant at the Last Supper, where he says that this is my body, which is given for you, do this in remembrance of me. And this is the cup of my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant, which is shed for you and for all for the forgiveness of sins. So those are the two references that I think about. In terms of in Jeremiah, where he speaks about, he says that I will establish with you, Israel, a new covenant in which I will pour out my spirit and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Now that new covenant is what Jesus inaugurates in the communion. But that new covenant is what he sends out his apostles into the world to teach and baptize all nations and all peoples to enter into. So we'll come to it, yeah. So that's to address that point. But the problem is with what you're saying is that I'm willing to accept that I can't point to a verse or a phrase that says that Arabic culture is superior to other cultures. I'm willing to grant you that. But the reality is that Islam does lead to Arabization, and the evidence is abundantly clear. All you need to look at it. Peace be with you, brother. The evidence is abundantly clear. You see Arabization amongst societies that convert to Islam. The Assyrians were not Arabs. The Phoenicians were not Arabs. The Palestinians were not Arabs, but they've all Arabized. The Copts were not Arabs. The Nubians were not Arabs. The Berbers were not Arabs, but they've all Arabized. So what actually happens is, because you believe that Allah can only speak to you in Arabic, you have to believe by consequence that it logically follows that you must adopt Arabic as a language of prayer. Because Muhammad was an Arab, and he is the best example in everything, then normative customs and attitudes of behavior that he did not directly contradict, like infanticide, do become exemplars of perfect behavior, and they're all Arab. So that is why Islam leads to Arabization. I have literally heard a Muslim say that there's nothing wrong with Arabization. When I said to him, when I gave these examples of Arabization, and he said, that guy that was there, he said, what, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, I want to tell you that there's a better way, bro. Whatever your culture is, and I do not claim to suggest that I know, I'm going to assume that it's English because we're speaking in English and we are in London, right? That our culture, right, assuming that we're sharing that culture, right, is something that is equal to Arab culture, that is equal to Palestinian Jewish culture. It's not that English culture and whatever culture you claim as your own is equal to Palestinian Jewish culture, i.e. the culture of Jesus, and it is equal to Arab culture. I actually love Arabic culture. I really like it. I genuinely do. But my point is that in Christianity we say that all cultures are equal. In Islam, by default, they say that you have to Arabize, and Muslims do Arabize. And you know as well as I do, when you go to the masjid, you're seeing people who are not Arabs acting like they're Arabs.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So we'll start with the first bit, yeah?
Go on,
I
then.
know we mentioned the stuff about Jeremiah, yeah?
Yeah.
Which you was right. It was Jeremiah 31.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Good to know I know some of my Bible.
You do indeed. So
you clearly don't know all of it.
it says verbatim. Shall I wait for you to get it?
Yes, please.
Jesus cursed in your book and you couldn't answer, bro.
Passage as well, yeah.
You got it, my
Yeah.
guy.
All right.
You know what I mean? Who you, my G? Don't talk to him like he's trying to give a.
Okay, Jeremiah 31, verse 31.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
It says the days are coming. So this is Bible Gateway.
Yep.
Don't you think I'm saying anything
Yep.
that's not of
Yeah, go on.
So it says the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel.
Correct.
And with the people of Judah.
Yep.
It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors
Yep.
when I took them by the hand
Yep.
and led them out of Egypt,
Yep.
because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them,
Yep.
declares the Lord.
Yep.
This is, so 33 now.
Yep.
This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel.
Yep.
After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my law in their minds, and I will write on their hearts, and I will be their God.
Yep.
Don't you want me to continue, or is that enough?
Right, so
that
you make
the-
your point now. We've read the passage. You make your point from that passage, and then I'll reply.
So what I'm saying is, there in the Bible, correct me if I'm wrong, there's two covenants. It says there was the one of the time of Moses.
Yep.
And then there's going to be a new covenant.
Yep.
Yeah. So you don't really hear Christians talking about there's three covenants. There's two. There's the old covenant, and there's the new covenant.
Yep.
So for argument's sake, some Christians, they don't follow the Sabbath. They still eat the shellfish and stuff like that, and they say that's the old covenant. When Jesus came, he made a new one.
Yes.
This one is declaring a new covenant that's not going to be like the one of Moses.
Yes.
So this is the new covenant.
Correct.
The point I'm trying to make to you, Bob, is this new covenant again is only for the people of Israel.
Yes.
It's not for the world and everybody in it.
Right.
And it clearly states that in Jeremiah, which I did read to you verbatim, which you could.
Yes, I read it.
So what I'm saying is, when people say Jesus is for everybody, according to this, he isn't. If they're going to claim that the new covenant came with Jesus.
Yeah, you're saying.
Right,
all
so
nations,
let me
that's
reply
the-
to that.
And sorry, can I just mention the
Yeah.
Arab part? I was going to say that I'm pretty sure you're diverse with the world and what goes on, and there's many different cultures.
Yeah.
Like this brother, I'm assuming he's from Pakistan. Are you from Pakistan?
No.
Where are you from?
Originally.
Yeah,
I
your
was born
parents.
here.
No, your parents.
My parents, Algerian, Turkish.
Okay, Algerian and Turkish. If we go to Algeria or Turkey, they've got their own way of doing things besides from the Arabs. So they've got their own traditional dish.
Yep.
They've got their own way of speaking. Even
Yep.
though it might be in Arabic, they've got their own translation, their own dialect.
Yep.
So there's many things that he would do differently according to his culture that maybe someone that isn't Arab does.
Yeah, bro,
Yeah.
I'm a bad man.
So
So
what
don't
I'm
say
saying-
when I do something bad to you, don't say we're all bad.
Keep going, bro.
So
You know
what I'm
what I mean,
saying
bro?
is, even
You know
in
what I mean,
Somalia, in Pakistan,
Come on, cuz.
in Turkey, in certain parts of Africa, there's ways they do things that are completely different to the Arabs. They might speak the same language, they might pray the same, and that's all well and good. But they've still got their culture, they've still got their dish, their food dishes, they've still got the way they do things culturally.
Yep.
Their weddings are different. There's
Yep.
many different things. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not like we're just doing everything that the Arabs do. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did say an Arab is not superior to a non-Arab, and a non-Arab is not superior to an Arab. A black is not superior to a white man,
Yep.
and a white man is not superior to a black man.
Yep.
The only difference is in deeds, in regards to what they're doing in relation to God, how
Yep.
good they are on earth, how good they're following God's laws, rules and regulations. So we accept certain things from, it's cool, but we don't take in its entirety. We just pray in the same language. So if we are all from different countries, we can all pray the same. We'll understand what's going on because we have a common denominator in regards to the prayer, how it goes,
Yep.
and the language.
So can I reply to that?
Yeah, feel free.
So I want to reply in full to your argument. Benita, JC, can one of you find in Romans where it says that we are grafted onto the vine of Israel? We're grafted onto the vine of Jesse. So in Luke chapter 22, right? Bear with me. It says, bear with me while I find it for you. Right. It says in chapter 22, it says, reading from verse 19, "This is my body which is given for you, do this in remembrance of me." And in the same way, he took the cup after they had eaten, saying, "This cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood." So that new covenant that's prophesied in Jeremiah, right? Jesus Christ is claiming that new covenant. Because there is only one new covenant that's prophesied in the Old Testament. It's not multiple new covenants, there's only one. And Jesus is now claiming it, and he's claiming to start it. And he's starting it at this point in time, right? So the new covenant has now begun. That covenant that Jeremiah speaks of. And when in the book of Acts, you'll remember that the Muslim trolls that were here, that were so rudely and interrupting so aggressively, they said that I was lying. When Jesus said these words, Jesus said, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth," so that's clearly not just a man. "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." So he sends his apostles into all the nations to teach and baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Baptism is the entrance ritual to the new covenant, right? So Paul then goes on to say, have we found it?
Romans 11:11.
Romans 11:11. So then the Apostle Paul says this in Romans 11:11. Let me just find it for you. Right, it says this. I say then, Romans 11:11, yeah?
Yeah.
I say then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make them jealous. Now if their transgression... 17:11.
11:17.
Oh, 11:17, sorry. So, but if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive, so he's writing to Gentiles. This letter is writing to Gentiles.
Did Paul write this one?
Yeah, Paul wrote this to a Gentile church in Rome, right? But if some of the branches were broken off, you being wild olives were grafted in amongst them and became partakers with them is the Jews, of the rich root of the olive tree. Do not be arrogant towards the branches, but if you are arrogant, remember that it is not you who supports the root, but the root that supports you. So he's saying that me and you as Gentiles in this new covenant are grafted into Israel and Judah. So God establishes a new covenant with Israel and Judah, but that new covenant includes the Gentiles. So the Gentiles can participate in this new covenant that is given to Israel and Judah.
Well, I think in relation to what Paul says, I mean, this is something slightly separate. But I know Paul says something completely different to the other apostles that was around Jesus at the time.
Nope, he doesn't.
What's that?
So in relation to what's the word I'm looking for? Like foods you can eat. In relation to a lot of the things that was before, he wasn't saying things that was in conjunction with the rest.
No, this is just another da'i lie. And I'm not just saying you're lying. I'm just saying that Muslims lie to one another when they say this. Bring any Muslim you like to discuss this with me, and we'll go through it systematically. Paul's beliefs agree with what the other apostles teach. So the point is, this is just something Muslims say to one another, and no Muslim ever bothers to check whether that claim is true. The reality is, the furthest in terms of other epistles that you get from Paul's teachings at a prima facie level is James. But when you read James carefully in context, what he's criticizing people's misunderstandings of Paul's teachings. So he's not criticizing Paul. He's criticizing people's misinterpretation of Paul. That's what he's criticizing, right? So, and the reality is, just as Christ sent the apostles out to teach and baptize all nations, as I showed you.
And it's not the 12 tribes. You would say the 12 tribes.
Well, they're not the nations of Israel.
They are, right?
All nations. No, it says all. It goes out into all the world, all nations.
I would say that would conclude. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
But I haven't finished. But go on.
I would say that would conclude with Jeremiah. That those two would go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If it was only for the 12 tribes, because this covenant is what the prophet Jeremiah is saying.
But remember, well, 1 second, because you did interrupt me. Remember, he said that the new covenant that I'm going to establish with you will not be like the Mosaic covenant. Would you agree that the Mosaic covenant was just for the Jews?
Yeah, it was just for the Jews.
So if you were going to establish a new covenant that was not like the Mosaic covenant, is one of the ways that you could make it different to say that it is for the Jews and non-Jews? Would you agree that that is different?
That's one of the ways, but I don't think that was the way.
Right. Well, the thing is, you then have to square your teaching with Christ's teaching.
No, because in here it strictly says that new covenant.
Yep.
That in Jeremiah 31.
Yep.
That new covenant.
Yes.
Even because you say that one of the teachers it could be for other people now.
Yeah.
But in this covenant, it strictly says it's just for the house of Israel.
No, it doesn't say that.
I'll get it up again.
Yes, I read it, but it didn't say just. Where was solely for Israel and Judah?
Right, let me get him to read.
Right. Well, one second.
He's not biased,
No,
he's
you're
Christian.
talking to me.
All right, can you read it then?
So you're talking to me.
No, it's not because when he said
Right,
what he said,
let's talk.
I didn't want to get a Muslim to read it.
Right. No, look, bro. I read the passage with you.
Can I read it again with you?
Yeah. Show me where it says to the exclusion of all others.
All right. So what I'm saying, I'm gonna read it to you again. Yeah. So it said the day. Just Jeremiah. I've got it.
Yeah.
31. So the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. That's what I said. When it said all nations, it would coincide with each other if it was talking about the 12 tribes of Judah.
Yeah.
But it said with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah.
Yeah.
We all know they've dissected into 12 sects. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. So it's not going to be a covenant of the time of Moses. It's going to be a new covenant.
It's going to be a new covenant.
Again, it's for the people of Israel and for the people of Judah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So again, it says in 33, this is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel again. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my law in their minds, and I will write on their hearts, and I will be their God.
Yeah.
So, as I said to you before, I don't mean to keep repeating myself.
Yeah.
That would make sense if it was coinciding with the people of Judah, the 12 tribes of Judah, and the people of Israel, not the whole of humanity in relation to what the Christians say about Jesus.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, I believe as a Muslim, I'm pretty sure you got the idea I'm Muslim. I believe as a Muslim that Jesus only came for his own people. He only came for the Israelites. Muhammad, on the other hand, I believe he came for the whole of mankind.
Right, can I reply to that?
Yeah, feel free.
Sister, could you find in Isaiah where it says that all the nations will come to Jerusalem and offer up sacrifices to Yahweh? Right? So my point to you is, bro, is that all the way through the Old Testament, all the way through the Old Testament, there are these indications that Yahweh will be worshipped by all the nations. And I'm going to show you those passages now with my sister's assistance. I just want to show you one.
You want one, Bob?
That'd be nice, thank you.
Need one,
That's very kind. Thank you.
You say that the new Israel for the Christians is mean the Christians. I don't use that text.
Miss, would you like one? Oh, she's too busy.
She's finding something. Right.
So what did you say? You said something.
I say that the new Israel,
the new Israel
covenant are the Christian church.
It doesn't say that here.
But that's how Christianity and the Father interpret the new Israel. The new
it said here, it said the house of Israel and the people of Judah, which is 12 tribes.
Yeah, but the house of Israel is the church now.
Right, so the brother is right. That is Israel, and there are Jews that are part of Israel. So listen to this passage. Yeah, I think this is the there we go. Right, in Isaiah 55. Remember, so we're talking about an Old Testament prophet here. I found it, sister. In Isaiah 55, it says, "Lo, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters." Everyone, right? And you who have no money, come buy and eat. Come and buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen that you may live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, according to the faithful mercy shown to David. Behold, I have made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander of peoples. Behold, you will call a nation you do not know, and a nation which knows you not will run to you because of Yahweh your God, even the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. Same theme continues in 56.
Again, sorry, you finished.
My point to you is, in the Old Testament, there's multiple passages.
Can we just keep that one?
Yeah, in the Old Testament, there's multiple passages that talk to Israel and say to Israel that through Israel the nations will be saved. That's what the Old Testament covenant, and it talks about it in the context of the establishment of a new covenant. Now, I agree and affirm with you, Jesus only came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Because that's what, of course I do. That's what Jesus said. Why would I argue with Jesus? Now,
when it says keep the Sabbath day holy, and some people still go to church on a Sunday.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Just saying.
Yeah, right, like that. So look, don't throw us off. Don't throw us off.
No, I'm not. Don't go into that. I'm just saying.
So, my point to you is, if you actually read the Old Testament properly, as part of the new covenant, the vision of the new covenant. Remember, truth wasn't just revealed to one prophet, but to multiple prophets.
I believe that.
When you look at all the statements about the new covenant, it clearly indicates that salvation will go out from Israel to the nations, to the Gentiles.
No. It says the
Yes, it
nations,
does.
Bob.
Yes, it does.
And that's.
Yeah.
Are you finished?
Yeah. Behold, you will call a nation you do not know, and a nation which knows you not will run to you because of the Yahweh your God, even the Holy One of Israel.
Yeah.
So if it's the Holy One of Israel, it's not talking about Israel.
No, is it the Holy One of Israel?
Have you got
Isaiah 2:3.
Isaiah chapter 2, verse 3? Let me show you another passage that says the same.
What I'm trying to say to you, Bob,
Go on.
is it clearly says nations. And God talks about the nations when he's talking about the Israelites. He's talking about the nations. Those nations, to me, looking at it, would be the 12 tribes. Because some of the 12 tribes wasn't around back then. So when he's saying the nations that know you, the nations that you do not know, that might be nations further on that he doesn't know. So when it's talking about nations, it's not. When it's talking about nations, it's talking about, to me, the 12 tribes.
Yep.
That's what it's talking about.
Right?
T, what's going on? You all right, yeah? Long time.
Yep. How you doing, bro? So look, in Isaiah 2:3, and many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may reach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Now, look at what it says in Luke.
Can we talk about that one quickly?
Yeah. My point to you is, the term here is goyim. The goyim are the Gentiles. It's the non-Jews.
But it talks about Jacob.
Yes, the God of Jacob.
Jacob again has the 12. It's the 12 tribes have stemmed from Jacob.
No, it doesn't say that.
No, but we know this.
No, you don't know this.
The 12 tribes have not.
No, you're missing.
tribes have stemmed from where?
You're missing that. Your interpretation of this text is folly. It's wrong. This text is saying that non-Jews are going to come to Jerusalem to worship Yahweh in the new covenant. Now that can't be the Mosaic covenant, because the Mosaic covenant was only for the Jews. So this has to be about the new covenant, because this doesn't align with the Mosaic covenant. So this is clearly about the new covenant.
But the new covenant again.
But you haven't shown me. You haven't shown me anywhere.
Yeah.
Show me somewhere
Yeah.
where it says the new covenant is only for the Jews. I agree with you. The new covenant is for the Jews.
Let me ask you.
But it's not. What I need to see from you is a passage where it says it's only for the Jews.
Can I ask you a question? Then I'm going to go into it. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
How many covenants are there?
Thank you.
Bob, how many covenants are there?
Are we talking about historically speaking, or are we talking about actual that are still valid today?
So we're talking the time of Moses. So that there was a covenant then.
No.
And there's
Do you want me to number all the covenants that were made, or do you want me to number the covenants that are valid today?
No, the covenants that the prophets talked about.
Right. So you want me to name the historical covenants?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a covenant with Adam and Eve. There was a covenant with Noah. There was a covenant with Abraham. There was a covenant with David. There was a covenant with I think David was the last one. Yeah. David. The Davidic covenant was the last one before the new covenant.
Yeah.
The Davidic covenant was the last one before the new covenant.
What I'm saying to you, Bob, is when I speak to Christians,
Yeah.
and I ask them how many covenants they are, they say there was the old covenant,
Yeah.
and then there's a new covenant.
That's a layman's understanding.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, for example, like my aunt is a 7-day Adventist.
Yeah.
The 7-day Adventists, they still keep the old laws. Yeah. So my aunt doesn't eat pork.
Yeah.
She doesn't eat shellfish and crab and all that.
Yeah.
She keeps the Sabbath day solely holy.
Yeah.
She still keeps up with the old laws.
Yeah.
I've got another aunt that says no, those laws are abolished when Jesus came. When Jesus came, that was a new law. Yeah. So she says that's why she doesn't abide by the old ones anymore.
Yeah.
So they always say there's two covenants.
Right.
So even the Seventh-day Adventists, they accept the new, what Jesus came with, but they still follow the old.
Yeah.
And again, they're getting all the information from the Bible.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is there's two covenants.
Yeah.
Two covenants.
No, there's more than that historically.
The covenant of Moses, it talks about in around that time that there's going to be a new covenant for the people.
Correct.
Again, that new covenant is again for the house of Israel and for the people of Judah.
No, this is where you're going wrong, because the new covenant is to the house of Israel, but as I've just shown you in Isaiah, and this Isaiah 2:3, right, and I want to show you another passage as well. The new. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Right. It says. I just need to keep an eye on the uncle here, because your brother's getting a bit aggressive, right? So it says, now it will come about that in the last days, so we're talking about the end times, the last stage, right? And that is what indicates there is a new covenant. The mountain of the house of Yahweh will be established as the thief of the mountains, the chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills. And all the nations will stream into it. All the nations will stream into it. We believe as Christians that that is the church, and all the nations, that's Gentiles like me and you and Jews and Judah, stream into Israel, stream into the temple that is the church. We believe that we are the temple of the living God. And it says, and many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, to the house of the God of Jacob. So it's saying that Gentiles like me and you will go to the God of Israel and inquire into his ways. And that is what we Christians believe happens when someone becomes a Christian. We Christians go on pilgrimage to Jerusalem. We go to the house of Israel. We go to Jacob. We go to the land of the patriarchs, and we inquire into the ways of Christ, who is the Jewish Messiah. And because the Jewish Messiah is establishing an old covenant for all nations, which clearly that doesn't fit with a Mosaic covenant. That's not a Mosaic covenant there. Because the Mosaic covenant, as you rightly identified, and I agree, is just for the Israel. But the new covenant is also for Israel and also for Judah. So Jeremiah 31 is still correct. But as you can see in Isaiah 2, 3 and 2, and another passage I'm going to show you.
Hang on, before we go,
hang on. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
Remember you done that to me. You said, can I just mention the
Yeah, don't worry, I've got a marker there. But I just want to, and I'm going to even let you reply. I just want to put my thumb in the next passage, right? Christ is seen as the fulfillment of this promise, right? He is the one that all nations. Are you all right? You seem distracted.
Well, it's a lot of noise, Bob. You know that.
Yeah, right. So Christ is the one who is the one that is bringing about the salvation of the world, and we see that in Zechariah's prophecy. So this is a New Testament prophecy where he says, listen, blessed is the Lord God of Israel, for he has visited us and accomplished the redemption for his people, and has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of David his servant, as he spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets from of old, salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show us mercy towards our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath which he swore to Abraham our father, to grant us that we, being rescued from the hand of our enemies, might serve him without fear in holiness and righteousness before all our days. And you, child, will be called a prophet of the Most High, for you will go before the Lord to prepare his ways. So this is, Zechariah about John, right? But then down here it says, because of the tender mercy of our God, which is with which the sunrise from on high will visit us, to shine upon those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet in the way of peace. So he's seeing John as being the forerunner to a light that will enlighten those in darkness. The Israelites did not see themselves as the ones in darkness.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Let me respond to this one first, yeah?
Yeah.
The one that we started from.
2 and 3.
In this year, it says, now it will come about that in the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established in the chief. Sorry, the word which Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem.
Correct.
So again, it's just referring to Judah and Jerusalem in this passage.
But you're not listening to anything I'm saying.
You have to understand, Bob, even when you mention the part about Zechariah, or Zachariah, funny enough, that's my name. When it mentioned that Zachariah was an Israelite, that covenant was still always about him, because they was God's favored people. So it's whether you're talking about David, whether you're talking about Isaac, these people are Israelites. So the covenant was concerning them. At no point does it say that the covenant should go for every and everyone. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's the 12 tribes according to.
So, no, bro. Let me reply.
No, we can talk. This speaker's called out on my phone. He's not Muslim.
Abraham also got a promise by God. He said, to your seed, to Jacob, and many nations will be blessed, and the salvation will come. So you see, so many nations, not only the Jews, to the seed of Abraham, the salvation will come, the Lamb of God. So the salvation is for all the nations, not only for one nation.
But when you said many nations, brother, the Bible does talk about nations.
Right, bro.
To me, so I just kind of refer to him. Don't worry, you're going to get your time.
Because we're having a conversation, bro.
No, don't worry.
We're having a conversation.
Well, he's Christian.
No, hold on 1 second, bro. We're having a conversation. Let's finish that conversation.
Can I just finish what to say?
Right, well, you talk to him and I'll go.
You don't have to go anyway, unless you want to go.
No, I want to finish that conversation, bro.
Let me just both of you. Oh, God.
Right, bro, God bless you. Bro, right, the reality...
Team you.
No, the point is, bro, your point is, you're utterly ignoring what I've said to you. Listen, no. It is making sense, you're just ignoring it. No, listen. I have not denied the fact that Judah and Israel are part of this new covenant. So that your argument's already incorporated into my argument. It's there as part of my argument. You have not yet shown me a passage where it says only Israel, only Judah, but I have shown you passages where it says in addition to Israel and Judah, all the nations. This is one passage. No, this is coming from Isaiah. And it's talking about all the nations.
No, it's saying
concerning Judah and Jerusalem.
Judah and Jerusalem.
Yes, but you're not listening. Now listen to what it says. Listen, it says no. You're not hearing this. And many people. Listen. Okay, let's keep the conversation civil. And many peoples will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord." So that's saying Judah and Jerusalem expect that the nations will come to your mountain. Expect them that they're going to come. So my point is, I'm showing you passages that show that this covenant includes other nations. You have not shown me any passage that says that it is only to the Jews and Israel. Let me finish. I'm going to show you another passage now that you can ignore as well.
No, don't
listen, look. In Luke chapter 2, it says, "Now, Lord, you are releasing your bondservant, depart in peace according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all peoples, a light of revelation to the Gentiles." Are the Gentiles Jews?
No, they're not.
Are they receiving a revelation?
According to Luke, they are.
And who is that revelation?
What do you mean, who is that revelation?
Right, this passage, who is it talking about?
It's talking about the Gentiles.
It's talking about, who is the passage that this is talking about? Maybe you don't know the Bible. This passage is chapter 2. It's referring to Jesus Christ. This is a prophecy about Jesus Christ, and he's saying that Jesus Christ is a light of revelation to the Gentiles. Now, do you accept, according to the Bible, that Jesus establishes a new covenant and is a revelation to the Gentiles?
No, I don't accept that.
Do you accept that the Bible is teaching that?
It's teaching it, but I don't think it's correct.
Thank you very much. So I have now established, according to my scripture, that the new covenant that Jesus establishes, that is a revelation to the Gentiles, that goes out from Jerusalem, that makes the nations come to the mountain of Jerusalem, is the new covenant.
This here. So you came with it. Are you finished, by the way?
I just want you to show me a passage where it says only Israel, only Israel.
In here,
Yeah.
this is the word which Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem.
Correct.
This is concerning the people of Judah and Jerusalem.
Correct. And what's it saying to them?
Not the Gentiles, Bob.
Do English literature. What is it saying
Now
to
you've been
them?
insulting. Not once have I insulted you, Bob.
No, I'm not.
You
wasn't
get insulted on a
insulting.
regular basis.
All right, you're okay.
You know you do.
If
I don't
that
insult you,
seemed a
Bob.
little harsh, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be
Apology
insulting.
accepted.
Right?
What I'm saying, Bob, I just want to finish my point.
Yeah.
This is concerning
Yes.
Judah and Jerusalem.
I agree.
So it's not concerning the Gentiles.
No.
If I'm writing a letter concerning you and your family, that just is just for you and your, not for this man.
Right.
Just for you and your family is what it's concerning.
Let me reply to that point. Because I agree with you that Isaiah is addressing Israel.
Yes.
But what you're not hearing is what he's saying to Israel. What he's saying to the Israelites, what he's saying to Judah and Jerusalem, he's saying to them that many peoples will come and say, and that word there is a reference to non-Jews, will come and say, come let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob. So non-Jews are going to come to the house of Jacob. It says here, now it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of Yahweh will be established as the chief of the mountains and will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. If it's already addressing the Jewish people, then it's got no reason to say all the nations. The fact that it's saying all the nations means it's talking about other people, not Jewish people.
And what I'm trying to say to you, Bob, is when it's saying all the nations, again, as we write, I think it's just we're just not going to agree on this. But when it's saying all the nations, to me, and also to you, there are 12 different nations, all under the one seed, but there's 12 different nations. So if I'm saying there could be 12. That's the wrong. I can't use that in that context. There's 12 different nations of those people, so it widens out into 12 different segmentations.
They were the 12 tribes.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what I accept that to be.
Right.
And again, I would accept that, Bob, because again, I'm Muslim and I believe that the prophets that the Bible speaks of, taking away Noah and Abraham,
right,
they were sent only to their own people. So I believe that whatever coincides with Islam, because I can take from the Bible as long as it coincides with my belief.
right.
And because I believe that my belief is superior, the same way you believe your Bible is more superior.
Yeah.
So to me, it would make sense, and to me it does make sense, if when it's talking about all nations, it's simply talking about the 12 nations. Because it's not just one people, that it spreads out, it branches out far and wide.
So
that's what I believe.
So my point to you is that you have not, and I challenge you openly now. The only way,
Go back and do your homework.
So go away and do your homework. Show me a knockdown verse that says that the new covenant is only to the people of Israel.
I showed you
No, you
that
haven't.
now.
You haven't shown. But I read Jeremiah, and it didn't say only to the Jewish people. It mentioned the Jewish people. Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. You showed me Jeremiah, and Jeremiah doesn't say only the Jewish people. It says to the Jewish people that God is going to establish a new covenant. But it doesn't say that that new covenant is only to the Jewish people. And as we already agree, other prophets talk about the new covenant as well. And the other prophets talk about all the nations coming to worship Yahweh. And in the book of Luke, it says that Jesus Christ is a light of revelation to the Gentiles. And in the book of Matthew, Jesus Christ sends out his apostles to teach and baptize all the nations. And in the book of Revelations, which is a passage we haven't got to, but in the book of Revelations, it says all the peoples. In the book of Daniel, in chapter 7 of the book of Daniel, when it talks about the messianic prophecies, it says all the peoples of the world will bow down and worship him, i.e. the Messiah. All the peoples of the world. So again, that's part of the new covenant. And I'll show you that passage as well, just so you can see it with your own eyes. My point to you is,
I'm going to disagree. It's interesting hearing what you have to say
but the
about
point is you're disagreeing because you've got an Islamic polemic taught to you by Muslims and it isn't standing up to scrutiny and you're simply asserting it in the face of contradictory evidence.
Bob, just based on what you just said there, if I ask a Jewish guy now, because they're still expecting the Messiah to come.
I've debated them all the time, bro.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched the channels. What I'm saying is, if I ask a Jewish guy now, I'm pretty sure there's one in the park somewhere, and ask them, who is the Messiah coming for? They're going to say, if I say the Messiah that you're waiting for, because they don't accept Jesus, the Messiah that you guys are waiting for, is he coming for the whole of humanity?
Yeah.
Or is he coming for your people? I guarantee you, Bob, they're all going to say he's coming for us and our people, and he's going to restore us onto our native land.
Right.
That's what he's going to say. That's not a Muslim speaking.
Yeah,
that's
but
a Jew.
You remember, the same Jew will also tell you that Jesus isn't the Messiah.
No, that's
which
fair
contradicts
enough.
the Quran.
But no, that's cool. But what I'm saying is, who they're expecting to come, that was revealed in their scripture.
They're not the authority on Old Testament passages.
What I'm saying, Bob, you're saying I'm only thinking that way because I'm Muslim. To a degree, you're right. But it's not just a Muslim thing. I'm saying even if you ask a Jew, the Messiah that you're expecting to come, based on what's written and revealed in your scripture, is he coming for the whole of humanity, or is he coming for you and your people?
I actually
they
think
will tell me that they are the Messiah that we're waiting for is coming to save us.
I would actually say I've had a debate with a Jew about this, and they acknowledge that the Messiah will rule the world, so he does come for the world.
No, come for his people.
He comes for the world.
Rule the world and come for his people.
Yeah, he comes for the world. But let me show you this passage, because look,
I've never heard that.
Let me show you this passage in.
I'm prepared to ask a
Okay,
Jew.
yeah, go for it. Go in Daniel. Final point. Let's wrap this up because I can see you ready to go. In Daniel chapter 7, talking about the Messiah who brings the new covenant, it says these words: "And he came up to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him, and to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away." Now let me ask you this question. Do you not agree with me, because this is how I read this, that that's saying that the Messiah will be served by all the nations of the earth and all the peoples of the earth?
The 12 tribes.
That is not what it says.
I know, but I'm reading what Jeremiah's saying.
No, that's not what Jeremiah's saying.
I'm reading what a prophet is saying.
You're doing what you're doing is eisegesis. You're reading into the text something that is not there.
No, because you're saying, Bob, you're saying showing where it's only for the Israelites.
And you haven't shown me.
Sorry, only for
the people of Israel.
Only for the people of Israel.
And you haven't shown me.
I believe here, Bob, this is what I believe. I believe there's two covenants. There's the older one, and there's what Christians say is the new one, what Jesus came with.
Yeah.
I'm saying what Jeremiah's talking about is a new covenant. It's not like the one that of the people of Moses.
Yeah.
It's a new covenant. I believe that's the covenant of Jesus. That says again, the days are coming, declares Lord, and I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel.
Correct.
And with the people of Judah.
Correct.
I believe that's the covenant that Jesus came with.
But it doesn't say, one second, because what you're missing, bro, what you're missing in that is that it doesn't say, what?
No, am I shouting a bit? I feel like I'm shouting.
No, you're not shouting. What that passage there says that, right, and you've got to hear me. Right, that I agree. God is establishing a new covenant with Israel and Judah.
Only.
No, it doesn't say only. Where's only in that passage?
I will make a new covenant with the people
correct
of Israel and with the people of Judah.
Correct.
That's
so
what it's
it doesn't
about.
it doesn't say only then.
Well, you're playing semantics.
No, I'm really not.
It says when I will make a new covenant. It talks about the people the covenant's with. With the people of Israel and with the people of Judah.
Right.
It will not be like the old covenant.
Correct.
The old covenant.
What was one of the unique features of the old? What was one of the unique features of the old covenant?
What do you mean? There were loads of.
Yeah, there was loads of unique. But the key feature of the Mosaic covenant was it was only for the people of Israel.
And it states here again, a new one's going to be
new
as well.
But it says it's not like the Mosaic covenant.
It isn't. Yeah, you're right, Bob.
Thank you.
But then it also says, can I finish? I don't mean to cut you.
Wait, because the thing is...
Can I just make this point?
Yeah, go.
Please, sorry.
Yeah.
I know you want to go too. When I make it says here it's going to be a new covenant. It's not going to be like the old one, it's going to be a new one. But the same rules still apply. It's going to be with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah.
Yes.
It will be with just those people. It won't be the Gentiles.
Right, but hold on. There's a couple of things you're missing there. Firstly, that passage doesn't say only. Secondly, it does say that it's not going to be like the Mosaic covenant, which was only for the people of Israel. And thirdly, that passage doesn't tell you the content of the new covenant. It doesn't tell you the content of the new covenant. It doesn't say what's in that new covenant. For the content of that new covenant, you have to look at the other passages that I've tried to show you. And the other passages that I've tried to show you, I'll list them for you again. Isaiah 55, Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 and 3, Isaiah 55, the entire chapter, Daniel chapter 7. And in those three Old Testament passages, when it talks about the new covenant, it makes it explicit that that new covenant is going to be for everybody, that everyone will worship Yahweh's God. And then in Luke, I showed you that Jesus is called a revelation unto the Gentiles. Jesus himself says that he is establishing the new covenant, and he sends his apostles out to the nations to teach and baptize. None of those passages that we've read, not one of them, ever says it's just the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what you read into the text, and you read into it, not because it's there in the text, but it's because what some Dai told you.
No, not Dai. As I said to you before, Bob, even with the Jews, if I ask the Jew, the Messiah that's coming to you is coming for everyone. Obviously, you can't even join Judaism. They're not really going to accept it. We all know that because they believe it's a bloodline thing.
But you can join it.
You can, but they don't really promote it like that. What I'm saying is, when the Bible, to me, when the Bible's talking about nations,
yeah,
I believe it's talking about the 12 nations.
You got to prove it.
This new covenant. Again, there's an old and there's a new one.
Yeah.
This is what talks about. It's not going to be like the one of Moses. It's going to be a new covenant.
Yeah.
Again, it talks about or specifies who this new covenant is for.
Yes.
And again, it strictly says for the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
Right,
but I'm
bro.
going to disagree. But don't worry, Bob.
Right. So have you got a Bible at home, bro?
Yeah, I do.
Right. I'd like to give you a book. I always give a book to people I have nice conversations with. Always. I'm just finishing up for that. Bear with us 1 second, Mo. So I just want to give you a gift as a sign of appreciation of the civil way that you've conducted yourself, and I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So this is for you. This is my gift to you.
Make sure your people on the YouTube channel give me a hard time in the comments.
I can't vouch for what they do. I can't control their behaviour.
No, but you was telling me the Muslim guy, my fellow brother, he was acting up.
Well, you saw it on camera, bro. It was like
I did, but I'm just saying you have to tell your people now. I see the comments are terrible.
Be nice. Be nice.
Be nice.
Right? But hey, have a read of it, bro, because honestly, I believe that my closing thought to you is that you're trying to sustain something that's not supported by the evidence, and that's called eisegesis. What you need to practice is exegesis. So read your Bible, come back with more questions, let's talk again.
No problem.
All right, you look after yourself. Have a great day. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye. How are we doing, guys?